All right. Well, welcome back to Chris Frank Games, a video game podcast. No shock there. My name is Chris Stotts, and we have Frank White joining us.
Hello.
Frank, how's it going?
It's going pretty good.
Back to the regular scheduled time.
Oh.
We almost were a little bit late due to other computer problems, my iMac's computer problems,
Yeah.
but
Something's always got to go wrong.
yeah, luckily it was a short computer update, and here we are talking about video games. We have
Didn't take you 2 weeks to get everything together.
yeah, I did not have to order any hard drives, nothing like that. But we're here once again. We have video games to talk about and video game news. Not a whole lot, so we won't waste too many of your precious minutes. We'll talk about a lot of YouTube videos this week. So this video game podcast talking about YouTube videos. By the way, this really is the golden age of video game documentaries. I would say, and I would say just maybe even
Or
documentaries.
long form video game advertisements, as I like to call them.
Yeah,
I've
Yeah.
been feeling a little burned after getting into Warframe. 90% because of the no clip doc, and then being kind of disappointed in it. So
yeah. Well, you know how they say these are our Patreon supporters. I think they should have had Digital Extreme Studios or whatever the hell that name is. Had that as their and our biggest Patreon
yeah.
because they should have paid them money to do it. All right, so we'll talk about some of that stuff, and we'll talk about the games we've been playing, and everyone get ready for your for the game of the year show that will be coming up in a couple of weeks, a week or two. So.
Once the year is out, you never know. Something could come out and surprise you.
Yeah. Well, I think the Giant Bombcast, they did their freaking, I don't know, 24-hour show. I think because they had everyone there, like in San Francisco, so I think they did their stuff already. But haven't games come out since then? Didn't like a big one just come out?
Like Gris is like
Yeah, exactly.
No one's gonna play that for their end of year lists.
Yep, exactly. Just like the Oscars, you know. All right, but we're gonna start with the Sonic movie poster. And I did not even want to.
Which one? There's two now, each more bizarre.
Oh my god!
Than the
Okay,
last.
so that's a good point. By the way, I didn't even want to talk about this because I think this is ridiculous and stupid. But of course, there's a Sonic poster. I don't understand this realistic cartoon stuff that we got going on. We saw Detective Pikachu, kind of this realistic hairy. I guess these hair shaders that ILM has.
Somebody over in Industrial Light and Magic has like cracked the hair code.
Yeah, you don't understand how many strands of hair we have going right now. This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
They probably. Well, I think they've got to the point where it's easier to do hair than skin, like at the same level of detail.
Yeah. So the first poster was just kind of like a silhouette of the what's it called, the blue I don't know, the Blue Bullet, is that his nickname? I don't know. Like the Dark Knight. And then I guess then this new one came out where he's like he's like lounging on a police car hood, and then there's
he's on top of the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh, okay, because I think I saw one where he was like on a police car, or maybe it was a Photoshop.
Was that the one with Chris Pratt?
Like or like a poor man's Chris Pratt. I don't think it was actually him.
That was, I believe that one is a maybe not even real. It might be a hoax.
Okay.
But that's like a concept poster, because the same person who had that also posted like the list of like who should we get to play because apparently it's going to be a buddy cop movie, like with Sonic and a human police officer. Like, okay, whatever. Like, what is it with Hollywood? You can't not do buddy cop comedies.
Well,
like,
and
everything.
Yeah, they stole it from Detective Pikachu, right? Same thing.
But yeah. So they were like just listing all the people that they think could be the cop and all the people who could be the voices of Sonic. And I just thought it was very amusing that Paul Rudd was on both lists. And I'm like, well, there you go, right there, Paul Rudd and Paul Rudd.
Well,
doing the voice and the actor.
Well,
it's all Paul Rudd movie.
The Sonic voice could be him on Speed. He would just crush up a bunch of Adderall and snort it like our president, and do the line. So,
but yeah, no, the other official poster, at least I think it's official. Who knows? It's the internet. It's weird. I just saw a thing about they're generating perfect fake faces. It's from his perspective, and he's on the Golden Gate Bridge, and there's like a bunch of like, you know, speed lines, like he was running all over and then stopped and like decided to lollygag up there. But his legs are like weird, like they're the blue furry, but like they're in a weird position. Like everyone's been pointing out, like his hips have to be like immense for this to make sense.
Well, and he's strangely muscular, right? he's got like pecs and stuff, and he's kind of built. Well, it should just be like a round blur for his legs, just like in the video game. I mean, it has to be like that, right?
All times.
Yeah.
Well, I was just watching Isle of Dogs, and they do the every time the dogs fight, it's stop motions. They're in a ball of cotton. They should do that. Just have like a big, like fluffy, like stop motion ball of cotton for his legs.
Yeah.
That indicates speed.
Well, Frank, my only thoughts on this movie is that I think the furries have taken over Hollywood. Frank, just look at Detective
I've already
Pikachu.
Seen that version of that poster, the silhouette one, where someone added a giant furry dog.
Yeah, maybe the furry audience is way larger than we realize, but there is some, I think, very direct marketing towards furries in some latest projects. Have you seen this Fox singing show where the Masked Singer, where they're wearing these masks of like being a peacock or like a rabbit? They're basically like super expensive cosplay for furries. Check it out, The Masked Singer. Again, this is just furry targeted.
I saw what's his face, the furry speedrunner or whatever, bashing Republicans at the Game Awards. So they're creeping in there. They're becoming mainstream.
I guess they have deep pockets. They spend a lot of money.
Yeah,
I guess
you gotta be privileged and wealthy to afford like those. I think those suits are all like custom made, and they can't be cheap.
Yeah. We gotta be.
Like, do you have like a pee hole? Like, how does he pee?
How do you fuck? That's the thing. Well, that's.
Yeah.
There's definitely.
I think they just rub on each other and then like clean out the suits.
Man.
I'm getting old.
Is there gonna be a orgy in the Sonic the Hedgehog buddy cop movie? They're gonna do a bunch of drugs, a bunch of horrors in Ring City or wherever it's called.
Yeah.
Eggman.
Gotta go fast.
Yeah, gotta come fast. Gotta snort fast. All right, so let's talk about something a little bit more that we know about up our alley, and that is Resident Evil 2. So Digital Foundry, which we're both pretty big fans of John Lerman's retro series, they look back at Resident Evil 2. I don't say it's a modern day classic game, it's like 20 years old now, but fairly classic game. Originally for the PlayStation, and of course had an infamous, or maybe famous, port to the N64, which at the time was like a modern miracle of like programming, and they had to compress a bunch of crap. And you actually had this version, right? This is the game.
Yeah, I did. That was the first Resident Evil game I played. Was Resident Evil 2 on the Nintendo 64.
Yep. So I played the original Resident Evil, and then I think for some reason, I think a friend had Resident Evil 2, but then I don't think I ever bought it actually. So. But yeah, so then they compared the different versions, and I guess they compared a PC version as well. So I don't know, Frank, I'm assuming you watched this. Is that correct?
I did actually. It caught my attention when I was bored at work.
Yeah, I honestly not very interesting. Not a whole lot of. I mean, pretty much what you'd expect. Just like N64 was super blurry.
It wasn't as in depth as like the Doom one. Like if you want to watch one of those, definitely check out the one on all the Doom ports. That was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, not a lot of difference. Just resolution for the most part, right?
Yeah, I mean, other than like the dark magic that was used to fit it on a Nintendo 64. I'm actually not. I have a possible fact check for them. I don't know. I have to go and see because
you got a post on
there. They mentioned that the game had been crammed onto like a 64 megabyte cartridge, but I believe it was actually larger than that. Because I think N64 cartridges could be up to like 512 megabytes, and I think a lot of them were 256. So I think it had more space than they thought. But I mean, you still like to get the 15 minutes or whatever of full motion video and all the audio, and the fact like that so much of the game, is designed around having a lot of storage space for these still images and stuff. There was still a lot of black magic data compression going on.
Yeah, and the N64 had a alternate tank controls, right? You could use the analog stick to actually control.
Yeah, that was the one that invented, like, it's become standard on all the tank control style Resident Evil games. But now they have that was the first one to do the where it moved you in relation to the camera, so you could go up and then down, and then
Is that how you played
they
it?
mentioned in that, they were like, it's kind of game breaking for the difficulty, and in some ways it is, but it also, I actually, whenever I play them, I usually end up going back to the tank controls, because it gets really confusing when you are running long distances. Like if you are doing one continual like sprint across many different camera angles, the second you stop, like if you're holding forward or left or whatever, and so the second you stop moving, the controls reorient to whatever like camera angle you're at, so you can kind of like continue one motion across many camera angles, but like you get super confused anytime you stop. So in the end, I usually go back to tank controls because they're a little more consistent. Like
When you're moving forward, you actually move forward the whole time.
Yeah.
Or up.
Well, and you don't have to worry about like what forward is changing depending on what you're doing. So, but you can turn around instantaneously. That's like one of the things. You just put the stick in the other way, and the guy just turns around. So
Well,
gotta give
cool.
people lots of ways to play until they just figured out, why don't we just put the camera behind the guy and not do these pre-rendered backgrounds? This is silly now.
Mm-hmm. And so another interesting tidbit was Angel Studios, I guess, who did the port with some help from Factor 5, who did the Rogue, what do you call it, the X-Wing games. Angel
And
Studios.
Circuit.
Yeah. Angel Studios is now Rockstar San Diego. So I did not know that. And I think they did like Excitebike 64, and they did like a lot of the sports games, like the Ken.
But the real question is, does
Cody Bryant.
anyone still working there who was working there at that time? They're like, oh, it's become this. Like,
Probably not.
has it? I don't know, because if it's like if by now you've got a different name and an entirely different staff, like what's even the connective tissue anymore?
Yeah. Well, illegal filings. I suppose,
All the cells in your body get replaced like over 5 years. Like, you the same person 5 years from now that you are right now.
All right, and then he did show some clips of the 2 remake and the new Resident Evil 7 engine, and it looks fucking good. I'll say that. And that's a good looking engine. So.
Well, and I think it's going to run at 60 FPS, like on consoles.
Is it going to be VR? Is that, probably not, right? It wasn't designed for it.
I don't think so. But yeah, they're using the same engine from Resident Evil 7, and that could do some pretty impressive stuff on a console. So.
Yep. All right, and then speaking of video game documentaries, NoClip had a 1 hour and 47 minutes documentary on Half-Life and Half-Life 2, and obviously a very important game in Danny O'Dwyer, the guy's life. And I don't know, Frank, did you watch this? Did you get a chance to check this out?
I have not seen that one, no.
So Valve obviously did not agree to talk or anything, or they didn't agree to any interviews or whatever. So instead of not doing it, he decided, well, we're going to go around and talk to a lot of game designers, who influenced them. So they talked to like the Balrog guy, or the Balrog, whatever, the guy that did the recent God of War over at Sony Santa Monica. He talked to Randy Pitchford over at Gearbox. Cliff Przinski, what do you call it? The guy, Vince Zampinelli, the guy from the Titanfall series now at Respawn. So talked to all these guys, and about like how influential the game was and how monumental it was, and it's 20 years, I think, or 25 now, or something like that. It was in '99, right? So yeah, we're almost 20 years. So Yeah, a lot of nostalgia. This is definitely one of my favorite games. Actually, this is one of my top 3 games. I think my old top 3 list. My old top 3 list was Zelda 64, Gran Turismo, and then Half-Life. So you can tell that's a very late '90s top 3 list right there. But I had a Gateway 2000 PC with a Voodoo 2 graphics card that I paid for with my shitty job I had in high school. And yeah, I played it, and I loved playing this game. And what I loved about the game the most was the firefights with the soldiers and all that stuff. And everyone talks about like how the AI was really very basic, and it's more about the sound design, how the guys are saying these like they're flanking and all that stuff, but they're not necessarily actually flanking. And that's pretty basic and actual, but it still was like a lot of fun.
And it's all
And
smoke and mirrors. If they
sure.
seem smart, they're effectively smart.
Yeah, and they were talking about like how the original Half-Life, because they were talking about the Black Mesa like update and all this other stuff for the updates. How the game was really the original game was just one big hack of the Quake engine. Like for example, when you're doing the train ride and you finally get to your destination in the beginning of the game, it loads up because it has to load up because the subway car that you're in now, the tram car, is now stationary, and the door has to move, so it has to load up in order for the door to move. So it's just like a hack. The whole game was like pretty much a hack of the Quake engine. So there's a lot of interesting stuff.
That's games are still made like that. Like the trains in Fallout 3 were actually people underground wearing
hats,
trains as their hats.
Yeah.
And you just never saw the person.
Yep.
So it looked like a train.
And they went over like Half-Life 2, although I think they really glossed over the how Half-Life 2 got hacked and released. I mean, he mentioned it, but like I think that's like that could be a documentary right there. You just really mention it passing as if people kind of know like what happened, but I think that's a really interesting thing. But he obviously had way too much stuff, and he had to obviously cut stuff for time.
Well,
and all
I'm
stuff.
sure he's got to avoid saying anything that's going to get him sued.
Yeah, for sure. And there's other stories like Jeff Keighley when he gave the Valve team a game of the decade for Half-Life 2 for the Spike Game Awards. I don't know. I actually don't remember this. Well, I kind of remember this. He asked them do you guys have like a render of like G-Man or something like a high res render or whatever? And they're like, nah, we'd have to go like looking for it or whatever. And this was like maybe 5-7 years ago or whatever. So he's pretty. The pretty much the feeling from everyone is like, nah, they're not making Half-Life 3 anytime soon, and they don't really care about it, and it's not happening.
Well, certainly not now that they're one of we don't know for sure, but they're probably one of the top companies as far as profitability per employee.
Yeah,
of all time. So
yeah, why mess with that, right?
Yeah.
Well, Half-Life 3 will be made when Valve is bankrupt and out of money and someone buys their IP. And that may not happen for 50 years, but it will happen eventually.
Well, we'll see what happens when Steam has, at some point in the nebulous future when Steam has a significant competition.
Yeah,
like
for
when
sure.
When they're worried about no longer being the top dog, if that's suddenly a threat, well then I'm sure Half-Life 3 exclusive to Steam would suddenly become on the horizon.
And I thought, and after watching everyone, and everyone kind of like, do we really need a Half-Life 3? And I think everyone was like, no, we don't really need it. We're good. We're okay. And I think
everyone's gotten over it by now.
Yeah, and I think
another Portal, damn it.
Half-Life 3, I think, is the prequels for Star Wars, right? I think we all have this in our heads, like this is gonna be the greatest, most awesome thing. But then flawed human beings, actually have to make this thing, and when it actually comes out, it's not gonna live up to our expectations. Never.
Yeah. Well, especially after all the Portal, Half-Life kind of crossover teases and stuff, and yeah, they overhyped it to hell and back, and that's why it's taken so long for it to cease to be a meme, and people finally kind of feels like people are somewhat over it.
Yeah, and they talk to a lot of the new people that are kind of extending the legacy with the Black Mesa project. They talk with a guy that worked on that for a long time, and That is, I would actually like to play that because it seems like it's more like a reimagining or like a what do you call it? Like a reboot almost some way of the original game.
Well, and I feel like Half-Life 1 actually is like at this point aging better than Half-Life 2.
Yeah, I think Half-Life 1's actually the better game. I think so. Just the moment to moment, and yeah, and then there's another team. He talked to another team that is making Half-Life Episode 3. What they would they think it would be.
Just
And
a fan one.
yeah, exactly. And it was funny hearing those guys talk about Half-Life 2, saying, "Yeah, I played this when I was a teenager, and it really." I was like, "Man, I think I was living. No, I don't know if I was in LA at that time, but yeah, no, I remember playing Half-Life on my Xbox at 20 frames per second."
I also got the orange. Oh wait, no, on the
No,
Xbox.
this is the original Xbox. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I played like Half-Life. I played Half-Life 2 the first time with the orange box on Xbox 360.
Yeah, that's I actually
and friends, as I call it.
yeah I rented that from GameFly at the time just so I could replay it with a better frame rate because I knew the Xbox One sucked. But Half-Life 2 is definitely, I still have Half-Life 2 actually for the Xbox somewhere around here. So, all right, so it was a pretty interesting movie, and Half-Life definitely just a huge. I mean, shooters were basically Doom. I mean, it was basically Doom. Like get the key card and get to the door and then move on. But Half-Life was a story, and it didn't have any cutscenes. It just was you going through the whole game. And I mean, games still don't do that. A lot of games still don't do that stuff. So, okay, all right, there you go.
God of War does.
Oh yeah, there we go. God of War. All right, and then here's a end of an era story. Epic is removed Infinity Blade 1, 2, and 3 from the iOS store.
Wow, they made a 3?
Oh yeah, this is the trilogy, and I think they made some RPGs or some extra stuff with it. But yeah, these were some of the original powerhouse showcases of Unreal on portable systems. And
I remember I played the heck out of Infinity Blade 1 because like I think it was like an iPhone 4 and it was the first iPhone I had and it was the most impressive game on it at the time. And I don't know, I felt like they did a good job. Like it worked with the touch screen. Like so many games like kind of try to shoehorn in there and they're like this was built from the ground up for it. So it was a great showcase for the system. So
yeah, it was
does this mean they have big plans for the franchise then, or what?
Well, they're gonna release it on the Unreal Store, I guess, for PCs. I mean, exclusive for the Unreal Store. I don't know, or the Epic Store. I mean, yeah, no, but you're right. It was pretty much the killer app for like Retina displays. I remember when I got my iPad 3 with the Retina display. Like I got this game, yeah, for sure. And yeah, they I think the story wasn't great, but I think they set up pretty interesting characters and you had them fight. And
well,
cool.
it had good design. Like the visual design was good, and like it was almost like a roguelike because you kept repeating the same because it was they can't fit that much on there, so it was like the relatively short kind of campaign of just a bunch of solo fights and with some branching paths, and then like you'd come back as your own son to for the next round.
No, that part.
I think for limited, I think they did a really good job for having the limitations. That tends to make people more creative when you got to work around stuff. I never played 2 or 3, so I don't know if they ruined it by expanding it too much.
No, they probably put 3 probably has tons of microtransactions, right? I'm assuming.
Well, and then at the end of 1, it was like the big twist was that it was actually a sci-fi universe, not a fantasy universe.
Oh yeah. No, they got ray guns too. I could use a ray gun the whole time. Oh,
we can have a future sword.
Yeah, I like that universe though. Epic always makes these crazy sci-fi universes like with Paragon and all that stuff. Man, it sucks that their artists are being wasted on Fortnite stuff, making cartoony trees and crap like that. So. All right, Frank, do you have any news for us for this week?
Not really. I mean, I guess I want to point out that Broken Reality has launched. It was actually like last week. I still haven't played it because I haven't got the Mac build out of the full game, but I kicked back that as a Kickstarter. It's a vaporwave walking sim plus, and it's pretty amusing. You're like in a computer. I don't know. You shoot thumbs up at people. to like things. Like you have to like aggressively like stuff.
It's like
But,
res, but you're doing likes.
um, but yeah, otherwise, yeah, it's quiet, all quiet on the video game front.
Yeah, all quiet on the digital front. All right. Okay, cool. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back with the games we've been playing. All right. I'm pretty much ready to go here.
Sure. I got a couple things, so or well, two.
All right.
So I don't know if you want to trade off or.
All right. Yeah, we can. We can do it. All right.
What?
Okay.
Low effort.
Oh, that's is that Jaws? By the way.
Oh yeah, it's just a shark.
Nice print. All right, we're back, and we got some games to discuss.
That we have been playing.
Yeah, for sure. Just really quick. I know you got some stuff. I just got some stuff to mention really quick. So just pretty much trading off from like PUBG and Battlefield 5. And actually, I watched. Speaking of Digital Foundry, they did an update. Well, they didn't review, but they went over PUBG for the PS4 and the Pro and whatnot. And I was over here saying like, yeah, I think maybe it's like 40 frames per second. I think it's pretty good. But yeah, no, it never goes higher than 30 frames that they tested. So
you're just hoping.
Yeah.
Hoping against hope.
My wishful thinking, adding frames. We add pounds.
It's just the interpolation of it's placebo interpolation.
Yeah,
I can't talk or
easy
think
for you to
today.
say.
Useless.
Well, you know how when guys add a couple inches, maybe I add a couple frames to this thing, but and it's weird because the base PS4 has terrible looking textures, and the Pro and the Xbox One X have great looking. I mean, not great, but like way like higher res and all that stuff. So, yeah, but just playing that. I mean, I was saying last week that I got a chicken dinner my second match. I have not gotten one since then because people have like been playing way more than I have, gotten way better in the meantime. And it sucks because I'm trying to play with my friends, but then my friends, you have to dedicate a lot of time to this game to like get used to its nuances and the controls because it's so unwieldy. All this stuff, and no one that I used to play wants to play with me so anymore. So I'm used to going to the randos and hoping someone has a mic, and then finding someone cool, and all that stuff. And it's just a pain. It's like finding a new.
I've always wondered, how does it work when you're squadding up? Like, how do you win as a squad, or do you have to like fight amongst yourselves?
No. So it's four people, 3 people, whatever, and then yeah, if you guys win at the end, and then when people get killed, you get knocked, and then you can like rise them up and stuff like that. You can resurrect them.
And then is it like you're only playing against other squads, or are there like solo players in there?
Yeah, so you can play solo in squad matches. So if you want to like go up against like squads of 4, you can do that. But no, it's mostly squads of 4. And then actually, it sounds like they have a duos now server. But if you wanted to play with only 2 people or 3 people, they put you into 4 people servers. And having a team of 4 people is actually quite lethal. And yeah, you definitely would get your ass whooped if you're playing with only 2 people. So. But it seems like they have duo servers that are separate now, so that's better. But I mean, if it's not, it doesn't. And and also in that video they're saying like, man, this has been like this for a year now since the Xbox release. Why haven't they updated this engine? And like Fortnite runs at 60 frames on an iPhone, for God's sakes. Like, what's going on here?
They're just too busy putting it on new things.
Yeah, I guess. They got like 8 different
PUBG Switch out, and then.
Yeah, and they have like 8 different guns that use like 7.6 ammo. So I'm like, okay, we don't need guns. Just like let's improve the frame rate in the console. So how about we do that? So, all right, and then one other thing, really quick, Battlefield 5. The big controversy this week is that they changed the time to kill. I was talking about this last week. Also, the time to kill has been way quicker than in previous games, so you can kill people way faster. The time to death, how you feel like when you're being killed is super short, and it seems like it's a netcode problem that they're unable to fix, at least for the moment. So it seems like they did this blog post saying that they're seeing a lot of attrition rate, a lot of churn for these new players who've never really played Battlefield games before, and the veterans are cool and fine with it, but it seems like people are getting really frustrated with newbies, and so they're kind of changing. Instead of changing the netcode, basically, it seems like they're adding. You basically need one more bullet to be killed to kill someone in the game.
Well, they need to do the thing that Epic did with Gears of War, where you like secretly, without telling anybody, make new players slightly more powerful or durable.
Yeah.
And then like as they establish themselves, you just kind of ease the training wheels off, and then never mention it until like years later when you're doing things we didn't mention to you that made our game better.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so it has all the veterans up in arms and all this stuff, and of course all the people that are actually posting this crap on the forums and all this stuff and making YouTube videos. These are the hardcore players, and I bet EA or DICE, whoever, decided, okay, we got maybe 20,000 hardcore people that give a fuck, but we want as many new players as possible, playing this game, and also Jack Frags, who does these videos, saying that they're probably doing this before Christmas, because when everyone gets this for the Christmas present, they want Little Johnny to have fun when they're actually playing the game for the first time. So that might be it as well. So and then another thing is they have a core conquest mode, which is basically the old time to kill on for only one limited conquest mode, so that sucks. So you can still play it. I've not actually played that yet, so I don't know how long it would take to find a game, how many people are actually playing that. But I played the regular modes and all that stuff, and yeah, you can sometimes tell a difference because it seems to take like one more bullet to kill someone. But for the most part, you really don't tell the difference, and it's fine. I mean, people just overreact, obviously, but it definitely does feel better. And also they're saying they're doing like tests with the server netcode today, and they wanted people to join the server and like really stress test it. So maybe they're going to be able to fix it and go back to the old time to kill. So who knows?
Giving out XP bonuses or something? Come on, my incentive.
Yeah. So all right, so those are the games I've been playing. Frank, what have you got for us?
So I finally beat, scare quotes, beat Red Dead Redemption 2, by which I actually mean I got to the epilogue part 1. Like, oh my god, is this a J.R.R. Tolkien book? You can't make epilogue part 1.
Yeah.
And then like I did the start of the epilogue is like a relatively lengthy like series of story missions that you don't really have like free roam access during, so that's kind of like just so yeah. It was like, so I left it. I haven't picked it up since kind of escaping that and being like spat out into the free roam in the epilogue. So it's like this epilogue had a prologue.
Oh god.
That's how like I remember people making jokes about like the zero punctuation joke that the epilogue being mistaken for an entire other game, and it really seems like that. So I have no idea like how much is actually left here, other than like the dramatic tone shift of like now it's 7 years later and things are way less angsty.
Damn, someone should just, I mean, I bet you could make like 3 seasons, maybe 5 seasons of like TV shows if you just like I don't know, all the cutscenes and all the missions and all that stuff and all the people talking. Like, just someone should just do that. Like, here's Red Dead, the series. You know?
Well, it's like, yeah, you can make 5 seasons of a show where almost nothing of import actually happens and almost no character development happens. Because I was thinking, like, so after I played it, after I, got this far, I was thinking about it. I was like, wow, like, they really... I guess there's a reason that the games are so like with this maximalist design that have been talking about, because at the end of it, I'm like, man, you could sum up basically the entire game's story, or all the plot and character development in this game could be summed up in like 2 or 3 sentences for how long it's like for like this 60-hour game. I haven't even looked at what my time is.
What bad man regrets his past? Is that pretty much it? Or?
Essentially, yeah. And it's like because the big thing is that the turn for the gang happens before the game. Like you start off the game and they're kind of on the run from this like bank robbery that went wrong in Blackwater. So like before that was like the everything's okay time, and now we're already in the hard times. So like the most pivotal, moment for the plot like is, before the game actually starts, and then it's just like it really does kind of just be this like long slow slide as everyone's kind of relationships fray. But yeah, for the most part, like there's a couple of twists that you should probably see coming from a mile away. And but yeah, I was thinking about it as like on a macro level, the game's not written very well, but on a moment to moment level, like it's quite good. Like the dialogue's pretty well written, and you get kind of Stockholm syndrome with these characters. Like Arthur Morgan is like a very nothing character when you think about it. He's like your stock rock star character that seems like a person, but still fits within the confines of this open world crime game. So yeah, like it's weird how they have such pretensions of cinema and storytelling, and it's like it's really they told as far for being a prequel to the original game, and so having a lot of things in place that they have to get to, because obviously they can't contradict the first game. And then just the structure of the game itself, like it's kind of like this was the only story they could have possibly made. Though someone had a really interesting idea of like that would have been a much better game had the player character been Dutch rather than Arthur. Like if you'd actually been the like gang leader who's slowly losing it, and rather than the lieutenant, that would have been somewhat more interesting. But
time to remake the game. Rockstar, another DLC, 10 years.
DLC. But yeah, but I mean, the story's not over because there's like so many like loose threads that we're going to be catching up on, and who knows how this is actually going to end. But I was thinking about it. With the new area that you get to in the epilogue, which is it's like half of the map of the first game entirely.
Oh yeah.
Like so by the time you're in the epilogue, you have access to basically everything but Mexico from the first game. So it's kind of weird, like it's almost like nostalgia to be like going like I recognize this a cliff. This was really annoying that you had to go all the way that way and then all the way back down. Now I got to do this again. And then apparently somebody found like Mexico stuff in the files, like so that the geometry exists or something. So I don't know if they're actually going to go this way. It's not necessarily a terrible idea. They should just remake as like DLC the entire first game, because all the assets are basically in there apparently. So you could just remake Red Dead 1 and Red Dead 2 engine. Who knows? But yeah, so done with that. I guess I don't know. I picked up online again, mainly because I saw a really funny video online of so people are even though they've balanced the economy more, so it's somewhat more forgiving, and then they also like they gave everybody who had played previously like $250. So when I logged in the other day, like I got like, and then they gave everybody $250. I don't know exactly what it was, but I think everybody who had played before the rebalancing just got the $250, and then also you if you spent enough money or did enough things, like you got reimbursed. So I got I got 500 in like two sums, and then some like 15 gold bars, which was really nice because I had one exactly one that I had earned previously. So but yeah, so I fired that up again because I was watching videos. People are still, as they are, trying to find the exploits and things. Like, there's a spot above Tumbleweed where you're pretty much guaranteed to get a perfect 3-star cougar to spawn. So some guy has figured out that like if you ride up there, it's pretty close to Tumbleweed, which has a butcher. So you ride up there, kill a cougar, skin it, put it on your horse, ride back, and you can make $250 an hour doing that.
Oh
Just
God.
riding back, killing a cougar, skinning it, riding back to town, selling it, riding back up to the hills, killing a cougar. I did it a
So
couple times, but like I can't like I think you'd go insane just like for hours on end doing that.
set your alarm on your iPhone every hour. Remind me when to go get the cougar again.
Well, no, it's you have to keep doing it continuously. It respawns every time because you only get like $20 or so per cougar and its accoutrement and organs and whatever you can sell, like its teeth. So you just it's respawns. It's already like reset by the time it's far enough away. So you basically just continuously go back and forth, and then doing that for an hour should net you about $250. But yeah. So I mean, I tried that a little bit. I tried not just grinding. So I was actually like, because you can also pick up little things. So I'd like shoot some Gila monsters. You know, now that I had some money after this like update, I could finally buy the varmint rifle, which is apparently the PvP weapon of choice these days. Because even though it's a 22 caliber rifle, and mainly you use it for hunting small animals, so you can kill them without ruining their pelts. But somebody, I guess, figured out that since headshots are one-hit kills, pretty much whatever, and it's also a very fast-firing and very accurate weapon with a short reload. So as long as you just only try to get headshots, it's actually like the best weapon in the game. So I got that to kill. So I'm loading up my horse and riding back. So
are you doing like missions with like gangs and like robbing banks, or are you doing any of that shit? Can you do that stuff?
Well, I've been doing story missions. It's got a story campaign.
And then do other players like join your game then?
Yeah,
when you do that?
You matchmake. So you go to the mission and you matchmake with randos if you don't have a posse. And I'm still waiting for like the two people I know who play this game to like, come on guys, make your character already. You already missed out on some free stuff by not just logging in. Those are the lucky bastards, the people who like logged in and did one thing and then didn't touch it. Now if they do it again, they'll get free money. But
freaking all of a sudden you're anti-welfare, huh? No, Frank, I see. I see how it is.
I'm anti-video game welfare unless I'm getting it.
Yeah.
But I haven't had much trouble with randos. There's like one mission that has kind of a stealth component that's the only one that I had to redo because you have a limited number of lives. So you're playing with 4 players, but I think you only get like 2 respawns before you fail. So yeah, having the guy just run ahead into the group of guys that we're supposed to be sneaking up on. Right. Oops. But no, otherwise I haven't been too bad. Though one of the last missions I did tonight, I was useless in, like, because and you can tell when you've got people who are just grinding it because they want to skip the cutscenes. So it's like, and it sees how many you vote.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, skip the cutscenes. I think to skip cutscenes, everyone, it has to be unanimous. But yeah, it was like everyone wanted to skip it. I'm like, I haven't seen this one yet. And then we got to it, like the other guys like just like immediately like blasted off in the direction of whatever we were doing, and I killed exactly one guy the entire mission because I would just like roll up, like the town has been almost completely wiped out. I kill one guy, I go to Ludin, and then everyone else is just already off to the next section. And like the same thing happens, except this time I'm not even fast enough to kill one guy. I still got paid, but and there are also there's free roam missions as well, which you can't really do solo. And there doesn't appear to be matchmaking on them. You just you have to posse up in the free roam with people, and then they're generally like simple delivery kind of things. Like take 2 of these to and that's why they're hard to do solo, because you can only carry like one of the MacGuffins on yourself. And those ones have the twist of other posses and other players can intervene since they're in the free roam and steal your stuff. And so it's got a kind of a PvP element. Yeah, I mean, it's most of the same stuff you can do in solo. It's just I wish there were more, like there's no like just the random crap that happens is like significantly reduced, but then you get the random crap of like people hunting you down. Though, for the most part, people have been pretty nice in my experience. I've only been like murdered for no reason a couple of times. No one has tried to like hog tie me because that's like the real troll thing where you instead of just killing the person, you lasso them and then hog tie them and try to like throw them in water or whatever. And you can like mash a button to escape, but if you're not fast enough, then they can abuse you. Though, pro tip, I learned from a YouTube video, haven't had a chance to it to come up. You can instantly escape from being dragged with the lasso. You have to do it before you get hogtied, but instead of mashing the button to escape, if you just open the weapon wheel and switch to your knife, you'll just cut yourself free instantly.
Oh yeah.
So
I heard that if you like start cooking, like grits or something too, it doesn't let you get lassoed.
Well, that's just because you're in your camp. Like that's the one like safe zone is you can raise the white flag in your camp, and then while you're there, you are basically invincible. There's also if someone kills you enough times, you have the option to parlay, which I was talking about like last week, which if they agree to the parlay, then it basically like spawns you both like right in front of each other, but also like gives you like 10 minutes of immunity to each other's damage. You can't hurt each other at all. Though the one time I tried it, like the other guy didn't want to talk, so it just spawned me like really far away. And then also like de-aggroed their dots. Like so, if somebody has killed you recently, they show up as a red dot like an enemy, whereas everyone else is pink. But like once I parlayed, like the guy's whole posse like turned into pink dots, and I'm like, oh great, now I don't know which ones of these guys were the assholes who were trying to kill me. But the other thing that I want to try, I haven't had a chance to because every time I loaded in today, someone else was doing it. Is somebody found a ladder in Saint Denis, Saint Denis, whatever, the New Orleans like town, the big city in the game. There is a ladder in an alley that you can climb up and get to a roof point where no one can see you or shoot you from the ground, and then you have eyes on the ladder itself. So that's become a police farming area where you get a wanted level and climb up there and then just murder every cop that comes up. Obviously, you will lose honor, and you won't make any money. You'll be spending ammo and not earning money, but it is a good way, apparently, to farm experience. And also, if you do like a bow, then you can earn health experience because like using the bow and the fishing rod, I guess, are the best ways to raise your health in the game because all your stats have their own kind of XP bars, and which is separate from the main one, which mainly just controls what you have access to for gear. So.
All right.
It looks amusing. I saw like I spawned in and tried to do it, and someone else was there, and I just walked into the alley, and there was just like dead cops falling from the sky, and I think I might have angered the guy because I started looting the cops' corpses, and the cops didn't care. Like I didn't get a wanted level for like looting their buddies. I did that, loses you honor, but like it glitched out or something, and like the cops stopped spawning in. So I was like, oh, sorry, I kind of ruined your farm there. Like, but who knows? But yeah, so that's not all I've played. I also am a new owner of an analog an analog Super NT.
Yeah, so this is that all white
yeah, I got the
NT
special
thing.
limited edition ghostly one.
So this can play SNES cartridges and it's like what HDMI output, I'm assuming.
Yeah, HDMI output with a variety of scaling options, and though I'm not a big fan. Like the scale, they're some of the best looking scalers I've ever seen, but they still just don't look right. So what I've been doing is just playing with it. The scaler's off, so like the raw pixels just blown up to 1080. with scan lines. You add the scan lines and then turn the scan line opacity down significantly, and that kind of, to me, looks the closest to like actually playing it on a CRT, only 1080p with big screen. But yeah, it's fun. I was playing Alien 3 on it, and it comes with Super Turrican and Super Turrican 2, which 2 I don't believe ever was actually released, which are some fun run and gun shooters.
Not exactly Star Fox 2. Let's be honest, though, but Turgan.
But they're Factor 5
yeah,
games.
Yeah, there you go.
And Super Turrican 2, as it only exists on the Super NT, I guess, even has surround sound.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Which is kind of interesting for a Super Nintendo game.
So do you have
it is hard as balls. I can't get by level 2 because there's a big Bionic Commando swinging section that is just interminable. And I ran out of time. I'm like, oh yeah, video games sometimes had like just timers for no reason. But,
yeah, just added difficulty. But do you have a bunch of old SNES?
Yeah, I have a pretty substantial collection actually.
Are these all your old ones back in the day, or did you recollect?
It's a variety. It's all my ones from childhood, plus like the weird random things that I've accumulated in recent years. So it's funny, you can tell though it's the ones I had as a kid that are all the ones that are worth money, like Demon's Crest and the Twisted Tales of Spike McFang. Which no one's ever heard of. It goes for like $125 minimum.
I'm sure that's just generic 16-bit platformer from the 90s, I'm assuming, right?
It's actually a action RPG about a cartoon vampire, and your health is in tomatoes.
Wow.
It's really like kid kind of style, but it's actually a pretty fun game.
So can you use the old SNES controllers, or?
Yeah, it's no USB nonsense. And then this one came with an 8-bit DO, a white one to go along with it, and that is the Bluetooth Super Nintendo controller. Like it's a dongle that it's got the Super Nintendo port, so I could actually take it and put it in the actual Super Nintendo if I wanted. And then it's just a Bluetooth controller then, so it's wireless, which is quite nice because, playing in your living room in front of your big TV, it's like if I was actually playing with the Super Nintendo, like the cord would just be hanging across the room, and like anyone who wanted to like walk by would have to like awkwardly walk over it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's it's fun, and then the shtick with the ghostly one, aside that it was all white and came with the controller. It's one of those things where, it's actually like limited edition, but getting the controller free makes it almost like it costs like a tiny bit more. But it has special unique animations for the startup that were designed by Phil Fish. Apparently, he does that's what he's been doing. He's making the 16-bit like startup screens for the analog consoles.
Oh God.
And though, as an aside, I want to say like nowadays, I think Phil Fish is the guy from Indie Game the movie that I think is like that I have the most respect for. This one, I guess maybe McMullen. He hasn't, like, most of those guys had big meltdowns, but he had the one meltdown that I felt was justified. Anyway, that's the side. Like Jonathan Blowstocks, Super Meat Boy guy's fine. Whatever.
Yeah, and by the way, speaking of Super Meat Boy, but Epic Store is talking about like, oh yeah, we got Meatball, the sequel to Super Meatball. It's like, does anyone care about? I mean, does anyone care about this game?
That's a killer app.
Is that a killer app? Yeah, exactly. I'm not really sure about that.
But yeah, so it's got a special ghostly themed loading thing, and then every time you turn it on, it plays a different little jingle by a different ghostly artist. It's a record label for electronic musicians, in case you guys didn't know. It's got a cool logo. I actually went and made like a transparent PNG of the logo to put on my Harmony remote. So when I switch the HDMI over to, even though it can't control, it doesn't have, you still have to press the button to turn it on. But the button on my Harmony remote to switch over to that USB port has the little ghostly logo. It's like a Pac-Man ghost in a circle kind of thing. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's fun to play around with the weird settings, and uh, it sounds really good. So you get to hear like Super Metroid music blasting out your home theater speakers.
Yeah, that sounds great. Sounds like pretty fun. Is the white plastic gonna turn yellow in 3 years' time?
If they want to be authentic, then it should. But I don't think
Who
so.
knows? Who knows what's gonna happen?
One weird thing though, they don't have the eject button like in an original Super Nintendo. Like it doesn't have that mechanism. So it actually has like in the instructions, they're like, take care when you're like, don't wiggle it back and forth. You just have to like put your hand on it and then
just pull it out
straight up. Yeah.
Yeah. What did that thing? That thing was just a lever to pop it out, right? I mean, it's not like it
Yeah.
actually did anything. Right?
No, it was just like, but it was like a big like this thing's tiny. Like so,
Yeah.
I don't think there was room for a physical eject mechanism. So,
All right. Well, sweet. So, how much was this thing, by the way?
let's see, my wife around. It's like $200.
Oh, jeez. The price of the original SNES, and that came with 2 controllers and Super Mario World, by the way.
Yeah, but there's inflation.
It was $92. Yeah,
It's-
92. Well, hey, this will. Do you have a you have a working SNES over there, right? Somewhere.
Yeah,
assuming.
but it's actually it's right behind me, but it's like it's on the retro like cart that I have of just like a big TV and then all my like VCRs and retro consoles.
Yeah.
And it's in the laundry room where I am now, which is very cold this time of year. So if I want to play a Super Nintendo game, I have to go into the cold laundry room and stand. And so
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? And then this Ghostly thing came out, and it was a limited edition, and like I was like, I shouldn't have bought it, and then I bought
And then you're like, I'm an adult. Now. Who gives a fuck?
it.
When you want to live, like we're
I
half
think I
dead.
justified it, but like I just wasted so much money on film festival entry free fees.
Yeah, this
I
actually.
should be able to waste money on something that will
Yeah.
last a long time and give me joy.
This is something concrete or more like plastic, I suppose. So, all right, well, cool. Yeah, I don't think Digital Foundry did a video on that yet, so it'd be interesting to see how that compares to like the SNES Classic and stuff. So, and only SNES games, right? You can't play Nintendo games.
Yeah. It's not. If you want to do like they've got a Genesis one coming out, and they already did. Like they started doing like with a regular Nintendo one. So yeah, you got to buy 3 different things if you want this. But
Just like the old days.
it's not emulation. It's the big deal. It's not like if you get one of those, $70. It's got 3 cartridge slots, and we'll play Genesis, Super Nintendo, and NES. Like those are being emulated, so there's compatibility issues, and maybe it's just not quite right. And then you don't get all the fun modes to flip through.
Yeah. There's nothing like using the real cartridge, huh? The original cartridge. To
Well,
play
and
the
at some point down the line, like when I could justify another like $100 expense, I'll get the SD to SNES cartridge.
game. What is that? You can play Nintendo games on it.
Yeah, it's literally just a cartridge with some firmware or whatever on it, and then an SD card slot, and so you can just download ROMs and put it on there and have everything.
Oh, nice. Speaking of which, you hear that they put the PlayStation games on the SNES Classic and actually runs them better than the PlayStation Classic.
I did not see that.
And I don't know if it's because they didn't do the it's the 50 hertz PAL stuff or not, because they didn't really, this person who wrote it really didn't seem they knew what they're talking about. But yeah, I can imagine that being the case. So
Well, I'm sure the Raspberry Pi would do better than both. So
yeah. All right. Well, there you go. So what? Alien 3.
that
How's
I was
Alien
like,
3?
I wanted to, for my inaugural cart, I wanted something special. I was like, so what's something that's got some cool visuals and sound that's not just Chrono Trigger or Super Metroid?
Yeah.
And so I went with Alien 3.
It's good animation, right? And
Yeah, it looks like it's got like it's kind of slow paced and like it's got floaty jumping. But once you get the hang of it, it's pretty cool, and
Is
it's
it-
got multiple weapons. flamethrower, pulse rifle, grenade launcher, and then with the weird thing, it's got a mission-based system, which is relatively unique for the 16-bit era, where you're essentially in an open world. It's corridors and rooms and areas, but you start off next to a computer terminal, and you go to the computer terminal and you pick a mission, and they're generally like, save all the prisoners in this room, or destroy all the eggs in that room, or activate a machine here or there, and then you have to like look at the map. You can look at the whole map from these things. The only problem is like the rooms aren't labeled outside of the map, so you have to like find the mission. You see what you have to do, and then you have to like just fly around the map for like 10 minutes trying to figure out which door goes to the room where the mission is, and then you have to remember how to get there. So it's one of those games I think kids, you get the graph paper out and you made your little map so you could have it right there.
So is it like Flashback at all? Does it kind of the controls like that, or not nearly?
It's not as deliberate as that.
Yeah, that would be a Flashback Aliens game. I'd be down for that.
It's got a similar look, but it's not like Blackstone or Out of This World or whatever, where like
not like rotoscope type stuff.
Yeah, it's not like you don't have like the grip. Like the controls are a little floatier. Like Ripley has a very like leisurely jump that you can control in midair, where most of those games were like you had to be very precise, and then you had to wait for the animation. And but it is a lot, especially early on. It's a lot of just crouch walking, and then like, oh, there's a face hugger, shoot it. There's a face hugger, shoot it. There's a face hugger, shoot it. And then I died because I forgot that there is you have to press. You can use the shoulder buttons to change weapons, but each weapon has a button, its own fire button. So you can just press flamethrower, and then you can go and press pulse rifle, but you have to press the button. There's still a switch. So like if you press the button once for the other weapon, it'll just switch. It won't actually start firing. So that got me killed once because I was like, oh yeah, I shouldn't have switched weapons. I should have just shot. But live and learn.
Oh yeah, there you go. Hey, the game is still tricking you 30 years later, whenever, 25 years later, whatever.
I think that one was the one I got just a couple years ago. I didn't have that as a kid. I rented it once as a kid. So
yeah, I did not.
Very, very faint, fractured memories of it.
I remember seeing it like in EGM magazine or whatever, and I think it got like 6s, or I think I got middling scores. So, when you're a kid, you can't, spend money on 6s or 7s. It has to be Nintendo only, right? All right. Well,
I like me goofy licensed 16-bit games. I was.
Well, yeah.
It's a lot better than Bram Stoker's Dracula. Let me tell you what.
I suppose, huh? How about Home Alone? Do you have Home Alone?
I don't.
Oh man, I got that for Christmas one year from my uncle.
But I have Warlock. No one even remembers that movie. With Julian Sands as the evil time traveling warlock.
Nice. Okay. All right. Well, okay. That's it. That's the show. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching. If you want to check it out on YouTube, go ahead and do that. Just look up Christopher and Games, and you'll find it. All right. And if you're on YouTube, go to iTunes and look up Christopher and Games, and you can listen to the show. All right. So for Frank White, my name is Chris Stotts. It's been Christopher and Games. See you guys next week.
Yeah, the people listening don't know that I'm giving double thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
well,
bye, everybody.
he's actually giving you the finger, actually, if you're listening. But, all right.
They'll never know.
All right. Bye-bye.